Hey, what's up, everybody? The Prodigy Sun has returned. It's been 4 weeks. I got myself a Steve Weiser here. Yes, it's a Broken Skull IPA. We're going back to the Attitude Era, and I've had a hell of a week. And obviously, I got a bunch of people who I enjoy hanging out with. So obviously, Mark, why don't you introduce yourself for everybody who doesn't know who you are?
Hi everybody. Mark Bernal. I'm the accidental founder of Lesser Known Comics. Started with making a comic book for myself, and it got away from me. And a year later, I think we got 14 books that are published, and then I think we have something like 15 that are in production right now. So that's kind of my story. Thanks so much for having me, Andrew.
Thank you for showing up. I appreciate it. What about you, Chris? Obviously, Chris has been on a few times, and I've interviewed you a bunch of times. But for those who don't know.
Yeah, this is just Chris from Laughing Rogue, coming to you live from out in the wilderness. We're out camping, but I make board games, comics, and just trying to stay busy and have fun.
And then Morgan, how's the future?
Hey, so I am Morgan Quaid. I'm a writer and music producer, and have written a bunch of stuff and having lots of fun, meeting lots of cool people, and losing lots of money on the artwork and such, but having a lot of fun doing it. So, yeah, and I'm from Australia. That's that nasal sort of accent that you can hear. It's Australian. And thank you, Andrew, as well for the invite.
It's a country we still like in the West.
Yeah, we're pretty whatever. The good thing about us is whatever our leaders are doing, we're not going to like it anyway, because, it's like, whatever, dude, But, yeah, that's me.
And then what about you, Melvin?
Well, good night, everyone, or good morning or afternoon, depending where in the world you are. My name is Melvin. I usually go by Robopope as my artistic name and on Twitter. And I put a comic book recently. I finished a comic book. I've never done, a book-length thing. I've done little short pieces. And I just want to bring that to people. I want to hang out with the other people who do this kind of thing. So I started reaching out, and a search, I cannot remember if it was a Facebook or a Twitter search, led me to you. So I wanted to introduce myself and, through you to introduce myself to your audience. So thank you for having me tonight, guys, and hosting.
I don't know if you should be thanking me yet. I really don't.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's still early. We'll get.
Yeah, I'm not that good yet. You can thank me after our interview.
Oh man, here now.
But obviously, before we dive into it, I said I was going to tell a story, and I've had a hell of a week, everybody. So Chris knows what happened to me on Sunday. What happened to me on Sunday is my dog had emergency surgery, and so she wasn't feeling well, and she had an infection in her private area. And what wound up happening is that my parents took her to a vet, and they took her to another vet, and they took her to a hospital, emergency hospital, and now they said she had a 70% recovery chance. Things going okay, and then they called my mom, and like, oh, she's a high case patient now. So now, me and my mom, and like my mom's crying, I'm upset, my dad's upset, and fast forward, we're saying, oh my God, did we just take her? Is she going to pass away? Is she not going to be there? And then at 1 a.m, she comes out of surgery. The surgery went well, and she's out of the woods somewhat, but she's not fully out of the woods. And then we saw her Monday, and then we actually picked her up on Tuesday. And so those 3 days have been incredibly difficult health for me and my family, very unnerving, very out of control. And then on top of that, my cryptocurrency wallet got hacked on Sunday. And so I lost about $400. And it's not my Ethereum that I'm pissed about. I lost an awesome NFT, and I'm just agitated about it. So that was my week. Very, very, very exhausting week. And that's why I am drinking as Steve Weiser, because I need one.
Hell yeah. Totally. Treat yourself.
But my dog's okay. So that's the important part. And that's the happy situation out of it. So that's everything that's going on with me. But I don't want to talk about that. I actually want to talk about what broke on Kickstarter today, actually. I don't know if anybody knows what happened with Kickstarter today.
Mm-mm.
No, I did not know.
I-
Something bad or something?
No. What happened is that, so everybody here has backed projects on Kickstarter, right?
Hmm.
My biggest pet peeve is when people run projects when they haven't fulfilled their first one. And so what's now started to happen is that apparently you couldn't run, I think, projects almost back to back. And so Kickstarter actually just modified their rules today that you could actually almost go back to back, I think within like 3 or 4 days. So once you successfully complete one, and depending on your standing with Kickstarter, you can actually now go launch another project. Now, I don't know the full extent of what that means. Does that mean fulfill, or does that mean end the campaign? But I'm very curious how everybody else feels, because obviously I ran a Kickstarter, but my fulfillment is taking year long just on what I'm doing. But I'm curious how the four of you feel, because you've all run some Kickstarter or you're doing comics, and I don't know exactly how that placates to your businesses and all that stuff, and it's very tricky. And I'm very curious because I'm not in the comic space.
Oh, okay. So I have never done anything with Kickstarter. So, why don't the people who have tried to lead this, and I'll come up with my opinion at the end as someone who's outside of that, who doesn't understand it, or has a very superficial understanding of that.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, go ahead.
No, please.
So I've run 4 campaigns, and the you always learn something new, and then especially Kickstarter as they modify their so there's even if they kept everything the same, there's a ton to learn because the scene changes and trends change and things like that. So one of the things that caught me by surprise when we ran the first Kickstarter, we had things that we were making that were easily fulfilled, right? So like if they're just ordering a book, right, you just get that immediately filled. But if it's a custom sketch piece, or if it's like a type of reward where it's like be featured in a future book or something like that, the delivery dates on those, like they range wildly. And so I ran into the issue of, okay, we filled everything that was immediate and we wanted to get our next Kickstarter, off the ground, but Kickstarter was giving us, hey, you still haven't fulfilled these types of rewards, and it was like, yeah, those are like year-long rewards. So you're saying that I can't launch another Kickstarter for a year, or not? And eventually I was able to resolve that, but the time and the communication and the additional plan, because you also anytime you're putting a profit model around like uncertainty, like is very like it's very difficult, right? Because it's like, yeah, they approved it this time, but if we put those same tiers together next time, what happens if they don't, or they change the policy? So
let me
so that
throw
made it
in there too while I'm at it, because one of the things that bothers me, and I have this issue with somebody's book, is that they said it was going to be a year out project. And so, but this is how I feel, and this is why I'm very confused about fulfillment. And look, things happen, and there's a situation with somebody else's book that I just became informed of in a private matter of why it was delayed by 4 months. And once I understood the issue, I was like, oh, this makes 100% sense. But somebody had a book that I'm still waiting for that was a year out, but they were running campaigns during that year. But now that book is going to be delayed by another 6 months. And so as a consumer, I'm like, I'm not backing another one of your projects until I get this book. But I also feel slighted. And that's where I think this gets very tricky for me at the very least, because I'm like, wait a second, you asked me for money and I don't have your full attention with your project. And I understand it's a business. And if you're up to the stage of doing 40,000 per Kickstarter, I understand there might be overlapping fulfillment and there might be too much money to give up versus doing 5 Kickstarters versus 10. because that's a $200,000 difference. But this is where I'm very confused, because I don't want to take money out of creators' mouths, but I also want to be prioritized, if that makes any sense. And that's why I'm saying to myself, this is a somewhat bad standard. That's just my opinion.
Well, I know what we did when we got the comic book on Kickstarter. We fulfilled it right away. I think it was done in like a month, and it was fulfilled, shipped, and all this stuff. And then we went and we did the board game, the Slaughterville 3 board game, and that funded as well. And we're going through that. But I've dealt with, and this is the thing, I've dealt with companies that are smaller, and they've told me they can't launch a campaign until they've fulfilled their first one or their second one. You know what I mean? The prior one. But then I've also dealt with a company that has 5 games unfulfilled, and I'm talking like giant miniatures based all over the place board games that are unfulfilled, and yet they're still allowed to launch more and more campaigns, because this is why I don't think it's creator based. I mean, I don't think it's project based. It's how much money can you bring in based, because this company's bringing in millions and millions of dollars per campaign, and that's a lot of fees for Kickstarter. So that's where I think a lot of the policy comes from.
Yeah, I was also told that you can, you are allowed more flexibility for multiple campaigns the more history of successful fulfillment, and if you have positive survey responses and all that, then they'll give you more. But so it wasn't unsurprising to me when they're like, yeah, you've only done one campaign and not everything's fulfilled. Like, why, but yeah, certainly I could imagine more flexibility being afforded if we were like a higher, if it was a 6-digit campaign, or something like that. Be like, yeah, fuck it, we'll hold on to that money and make that.
And I'm curious, and even Morgan as well, and Mel, feel free to chime in on this as well, because I mean, obviously, just as a fan, I think that being allowed to do something and actually doing it are two different things. I'm allowed to do a lot of things. It doesn't mean that me doing it is a good idea. And I think this is how I'm doing it, is that this to me is almost going to give creators a reason to do this, I feel. And that's where I think this gets dangerous, because now Kickstarter was sort of giving the green light, but they weren't fully giving it. And with this new, I guess, public statement, they're issuing the green light completely. And I think it's going to create a very negative effect, because I'm in a situation where now somebody's late with their book by a month, but I know how far they're in their book with this particular project, but they've launched 2 projects, and this book that is a month late now isn't doing as well as the book they launched 3 months ago, where that book did 4 times what the book they said was going to be delivered last month did. So clearly this is a priority issue for that creator, and I'll be damned if I get that book. And I feel that if you're allowed to launch immediately after another project without fulfillment of your first project, this is going to give that green light, and a bunch of creators are just going to say, fuck it. And so that's why I think this is such an interesting discussion. And I'm curious, Morgan, how you feel about that. And guys, feel free to interrupt each other.
It's I think so. Off the back of what Mark was saying, I think if you know how to run a business, or you're trying to run this as a business, in most cases you'll do the right thing. And there might be some tiers that are going to take a lot longer than others. So it's probably good that there's an ability to move on with the next campaign instead of technically not having finished the first. But I know of some creators that set up multiple accounts under different names and run many different projects in a row.
We can name him. We can name him. I mean, there's one. There's one. I mean, it's not a secret, and I'll drop the name. It's Marcel. I mean, and everybody knows it.
Yeah, and look, it comes down to, I think, business model as well. So my model has always been pay up front, get it done, and then run a Kickstarter to pay for what what you know, all the artwork and everything, which is risky on my end because it means I've got to put out all of the money up front, but it guarantees that anything I run, people are going to get the books. Whereas, you know, a lot of other creators, they don't have the money and they'll try and do it the other way around, which is a bit risky. The problem with Kickstarter is it's not a fixed entity. It's not something that's going to guarantee the same result every time. So you can't bank on it as though year on year you're going to get the same customers, they're going to do the same thing. Yeah. You know, it's going to be in flux, which means it's very hard to build a business model off that if you can't guarantee income. The other thing is you can be a victim of your own success. So my last Kickstarter campaign did a lot better than what I thought it would do. So as a result, I kept giving away extra PDF copies of the comic that I was doing, which then meant I've gone from I've got everything ready and it's ready to go straight away to, oh, hell, I've got 2 comics that now the artwork isn't finished on and I've got to wait now for them to get done to get this to these guys because the campaign's done really well. And then the other issue is printing, which is not a new issue, but it's become a worse issue. So I've got a US printer and an Australian printer. The Aussie printer, the last campaign I ran, did you get it? You got it?
No.
You didn't get it?
Like, I don't know why Chris isn't getting attacked. He's outside. I'm inside getting attacked.
They're all attacking you. Yeah, the last campaign that I ran, the Aussie backers have all got their books now. So they're all sent, they're printed, they're off, everything's done. The US backers and international backers, they're still waiting because I have to go through a printer in the US. And I'm really at their mercy of when are they ready? When are they going to fulfill? When are they going to post? All of that sort of stuff, which is another reason that, but I don't know. I don't feel comfortable launching another Kickstarter until everyone has got the book in their hand and I'm comfortable. But that means it's a very slow process. I might be looking at 2 Kickstarters a year and that's as fast as I can do them, depending on the scope and everything, which is not great. I'd love to do 10. I mean, I'd, you know, blow my brains out to try and do that, but you know what I mean? I'd love to do a lot more, but it's just not possible.
No, I agree with the way you're doing it, is because that's the way I do it too, is I have the art and everything all done before I go to Kickstarter. So the book is literally sitting there ready to go, and then I launch. And that's just, again, the way I do it. But and I don't bring it up. There was a company, and I can't help but feel bad for him. He just sent out an update and he said he just lost his artist. So he can't finish the book. He's trying to figure out, does he redo all of the art or does he just give refunds? So, I mean, and I can't, somebody like that I'd back again quicker than I would, because I've been scammed on it too, where they just took the money and run. Space Goat Publishing, I'm looking at you. Straight out, no doubts.
Wow.
So yeah, I would back these last ones that I was talking about before. I'd trust them again because they were honest about it.
Yeah, and look, the good thing about this is you can communicate to all of your backers in one go. So you can be really honest and say, "We got a delay. Sorry about it. This has happened." And I think most people are fairly forgiving. It's when there's no communication or very little, or it's sketchy. That's when it's not good.
Isn't it the idea that what are the 2 magic words or 3 magic words on Kickstarter? Does everybody actually know the 3 magic words on Kickstarter?
No.
Give it me. No, I'm joking.
I'm sorry are the magic words on Kickstarter. And I'll explain. If somebody says, I'm sorry, whatever happened, you know what happens when you say that? Everybody takes their temperature down by 14 to 15 degrees. And this applies in life in general as well. Because if someone says, hey guys, I'm sorry, I got in over my head. I'm working as hard as I can to get you guys your book. I'm running a month late. I was running 3 days late on metal cards. I emailed those people and said, hey guys, I'm running 3 days late. And it was like, you're running 3 days late? Shut the fuck up, Andrew. Like, that was what's going on. But it was the idea that, and obviously I had a crisis. I had to get a book out on eBay, and I just politely apologized to a customer who was waiting. I said, hey man, I'm running a day late. Like, I was like, dude, no worries. Because all of a sudden when you say I'm sorry, you know, and then you give whatever reason, people tend to relax a lot more. I feel, and I find that I am way more understanding if somebody's communicating and say, look, I got in over my head. I apologize. Because you know what I'm going to be? I'm going to be like, dude, what can I help? How can I
Yeah.
help you, right?
Mm.
I mean, that's just how I feel. And I think there's another thing that gets interesting where I think this really comes down to business and how you want to run a business. And the idea is, why are you in comics? And should everybody be running a comic and doing a comic through Kickstarter? I think that's a whole nother question in a lot of ways. And I mean, I don't know, Melvin, are you running through Kickstarter?
I am not doing anything on Kickstarter, but I'm actually glad that I'm listening to all this because I had no idea that it was so deep. I guess that the world of Kickstarter was so deep, and based on this new clause that they added, it looks like it's going to fragment even more because I'm listening right here to the divide that this is going to cause, like how you and Morgan or Chris are approaching this. As I said, I would do this. I'm going to deliver a product to the people who put up money. But then these clauses, I can see how people will keep projects going in perpetuity, and the consumer is the one that's going to suffer from this. So it's really fascinating. I've never done it, but I'm now listening to all this. I'm like, do I want to do this, or do I want to just simply print a few limited copies out of my own pocket and then just start selling that? Because I'm leaning more in the direction of Morgan and Chris and you as
I mean,
people who do this as a business. Like, I am going to take money from you. I'm going to give you this.
I don't know if you know my story. I want to have with my Kickstarter, and I mean, obviously, I was funding my show, and I got my ass kicked by this community in a lot of ways. And I'm questioning if I'm going to come back to Kickstarter, because I would rather call up a corporate sponsor, raise money through a corporate sponsor, and never, ever have to deal with the comic community whining and bitching and attacking me. And I'd rather stick my middle finger up and say, look, I can get whoever I want on my show. And that's a fact right now. I mean, I legitimately can shoot out 100 emails a week and I will get a 50% response rate. And I mean, last night I had the voice of Lynn Minmay on from Robotech. And unfortunately, my guest who plays Neji from Naruto had a personal issue and we're rescheduling. But at this point, I'm at that point where, you know, a bunch of people who I reach out to will say yes to me. And so like that's where I'm at. And so it's very interesting because this is why I want to have this conversation. It's also the idea that who should run a Kickstarter and who shouldn't, and what business you want to run. And so I just find it fascinating. And then we could all talk about wrestling after.
Well, you know, one of the things that I found surprising, you know, so, you know, I'm super new to the indie comic scene, and what, you know, like I had said in the intro, you know, I was going to make one book. You know, I worked with a handful of concept artists, you know, and I was going to choose from one. I fell in love with all of them, and I was like, okay, now we're making 3 books. And then as I started posting their stuff online, more artists came and they were like, can I make a book with you? And I'm like, sure, how hard could this be, right? So now I'm in it, you know, and, you know, talked to my wife, said, hey, you know, I'm gonna make a go of this indie comic thing. But I didn't know like where the revenue streams would come from. Like, is it going to be coming from distribution? Is it going to be coming from sales at cons? It's going to come from Kickstarter, like where? And the more indie publishers I talked to, you know, they were telling me, hey, 85-95% of revenue coming in on my books are coming in through a crowdfunding source. That's over, you know, the ones that are doing Amazon, the ones that have their books in stores or selling them at cons. And I was like, that's a lot, you know. So I can see the increased flexibility like being afforded by Kickstarter. You know, that's I imagine that is a byproduct of the response from creators being like, look, I'm trying to put out issues, you know, every so often. And it's not just the actual launch date, but before they wouldn't even let you get your pre-launch page up before you could, right? And everyone knows now the importance of pre-launch pages because, you know, you can, you know, that's how you get everybody, you know, get that funded in 5 minutes. Not that everyone organically discovered it in 5 minutes, you know? So it's, you know, as a public, I was like, oh, that gives me a lot of like confidence for planning and stuff like that. And once again, I'm not sure, you know, the rules of like, you know, is that for everybody or is there still some sort of vetting process? Like, are these for trusted creators who have a, you know, a track record of delivery and whatnot? But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, it's I think, you know, consumers will sort it out. You know, it's not always pretty, but you know, people, you know, people remember a positive experience, and they remember when, you know, when things go the other way. So it's, you know, these things tend to, I think, you know, ebb and flow. You know, if there's abuses, then there'll be overcorrections in the other direction, and then, you know, and then until the next overcorrection or the subsequent overcorrection.
Yeah.
Going off of what you just said, Mark, if you do that often enough, meaning if you sort of what is the word that I'm trying to think of? If you keep defaulting on delivering a product, and you do that often enough, and it sounds like what Kickstarter does now give you the opportunity to do that, to keep running campaigns, but keep putting off delivering something. How long can you do that before your reputation just, you know, just betrays you? Before you say, well, I'm not doing anything more with this individual because he seems to be doing very well on Kickstarter, but where are the books? You know, where are the things that we've been waiting for all this time? Like it's happening to Andrew, where one of the creators he supports, it says it's 6 months later.
He's a friend. That's what's even worse about it. He's a friend, and it's like, I'm like, bro, I supported you as a friend. Where the fuck's your book, man? I actually want to read your book now. Like,
that's what I mean. Like, I don't want to get personal, but it sounds like almost like a friend, but it sounds like it's almost like you're on the verge of calling him an ex-friend, and that's what I mean. Like now you multiply that by hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands, however many supporters you have. What happens? You know, how long can that sustain? How long can you keep doing before people say, okay, we're done with this guy. We'll find someone else who's putting comics out and doing like Chris and Morgan and just delivering, getting it done, getting it sent to people.
I don't want to become Finn Balor, guys. I really don't. And I don't want to have to turn on Edge here. That's the problem. Okay? The Judgment Day, you know, I do not want to have to go down that route. That was Monday Night Raw, in case anybody didn't miss it. Finn Balor turned on Edge. It was terrible. I was so devastated. Just devastated. I am very upset. Edge was a great heel. Cody is out with an injury. You need Edge as a face. But I do not want to have to become Finn Balor and turn on my friends. Clearly, that's exactly what I do not want to have to do in this circumstance. But we're getting there. Getting close.
It's going back to what I was saying earlier. I mean, a lot of people want to make a comic. It's a great experience. It's amazing to see something you create, you know, come to life as a book, and it's just wonderful. But if you're wanting to sell and promote and make a go of it being a business and all that, then you have to run it like a business, and business is all customer service. So it's the basics of every business. If you piss people off consistently enough, they will disappear. Word will spread. And the problem, the good side with Kickstarter is if you're running it the right way and you're, you know, you've got integrity and all the rest of it, it allows you to leverage off fans and pay for something without having the money up front, which is great. Or the way Chris and I do it, you know, it does it the back way around, where you invest and you try and get as much money as you can. So that's a really good benefit. But the downside is you can get in there with nothing and set up a campaign and promise the world and deliver nothing. And there's nothing stopping you other than at the end of it, all of your backers will go, well, this stinks. You know, I hate this. This whole system was terrible and all the rest of it. So it's not like a shop front. It's very, very different. You're not handing something over. You're promising something that you then have to deliver. But the reverse is true. You deliver 3 or 4 really good, you know, campaigns. People get to know you. They'll have faith. Whatever this guy says he's going to do, he's going to do. That's how you build a business. Same as any sort of business that you would build. But it's funny how many people are thinking this is my passion project, therefore people should just buy it because it's awesome. But well, come on, man, we're all consumers. We know how this works. And if you do the wrong thing by me, I'm going to remember it, and I'm either going to say stuff or I'm just going to never go near you again, or warn other people away from you.
Put something into there. Yeah. You guys know who Dustin Burnell is? He did it in Hops, which I don't know if you've seen the project. That project is off the chain. So me and Dustin were speaking, and one of the things that we were talking about is that there's a lot of people who are writing comics but there are very few professionals in comics. And what he was referring to is this idea that there are very few people who actually are running it like a business and also treat it like a business, understand how to do media, understand how to truly monetize what they have and all that stuff. Because there's a lot of people who I call, and nothing against anybody, and if anybody takes offense to it, yeah, I'm sorry ahead of time. But they're treating it almost like a weekend warrior type job. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. I run an eBay business that is a weekend warrior job, and it serves what I'm trying to do in my life, and I am profitable in that thing, but it is not my income. I enjoy selling and having extra cash because of my eBay business, but it is a weekend warrior job. It is not my main job. And so I think a lot of people are like that in comics, and I think that's part of the problem on Kickstarter. And what I'm scared with the new Kickstarter policy is that this is only going to say, hey, I just want to do comics, and I'm not worrying about fulfillment. And again, it goes back to professional, business-oriented versus, hey, this is my passion project, what you were saying, Morgan. And so that's where I'm very, very concerned, because the only reason why I care is I'm going to get screwed. It's all about me getting screwed, guys. That's really what this is. But
you're the client, you're a paying customer. Yeah. No, and I'm coming from the same place. I can see how. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, please continue.
Oh. No, I can see how, like you said, some people are approaching this like as a weekend warrior kind of thing, and how this policy enables you to keep prolonging that sort of like little hobby, I guess, like you would say, like it enables you to prolong the hobby instead of, like treating it as a business, treating it in a business, and as a business you have to deliver a product, and in this case the product is called a comic. But that's the thing, like a professional says, well, this is my product, and I'm giving you this product with the money that you sent in my way. And this policy kind of enables someone who finds a way to work through it, how it enables you to keep putting it off, and just keep creating and creating, but never finishing the thing and packaging it and sending it out. So yeah, I'm coming from the same place. Like I can see, yeah, I have a concern with that. And I guess it also makes me think that I probably will not try Kickstarter. That I probably will not try that. Like what Andrew suggested earlier about approaching sponsors and creating a partnership is more appealing to me.
I mean, it's fun. It really is. I enjoy it. I did Kickstarter. I did Indiegogo. Both of them were fine. Funded on both. But how to say this? Before this rule where you could do one back to back to back to back, it would be somebody could get away with, and I've had it happen, unfortunately, where somebody took, like I think it was like a $30,000 campaign and they ran, Well, then again, like you said, word gets out and you don't trust that person again. But if I can say, okay, I'm going to say I'm doing this campaign, then right after that, without fulfilling, I'm going to say I'm going to do another one, and then another one, you might get away with 60, 80, 90,000 then, That's my only concern. But again, as long as it's, because the only thing is, if there was a recourse for the backer, and again, as a creator myself and as a backer, I've backed a few hundred projects. If there was a recourse for the backer to say, hey, what can we do now that this person took the money and ran, and it's guaranteed they did that, but there isn't anything for us. And that's
I think that scenario though is it's one of those things, right, where when you see the nightmare scenario, that's the one that stays in your head, right? And that's the one, I think what's more commonplace, because what we're wrestling with, even though we knew after this campaign that we could launch the next one immediately. But the issue that I was running into is, well, it's even you're going to depress sales, right, if you're hitting people too often, with additional things. And then consumer behavior typically rewards, right, like the best time to launch the campaign is like right after they've just received the old stuff, right? Because
Yeah.
it got in the mail and now they're stoked, they're feeling good, they're posting stuff on social media and they're tagging you in it. Now you've got this big thing and you're like, oh yeah, by the way, next campaign. That's the ideal situation. So I think, yeah, there's those nightmare, types of things where like, someone could cut with the money. But the likelihood that they would consistently, turn 30,000 on each successive campaigns without delivering something, it's more likely they do 30 than 20 than 10 than nothing, right? Because you got it.
I think we're also getting complicated because, and look, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm calling it. I think July 7th is going to be when we call recession in the U.S. I mean, Patrick Bet-David is saying between July 1st and July 15th. I'm saying July 7th is when I think it's going to be called a recession. And I think it's Q3, really, when we're going to be hit hard. And I mean, I think that people, at least in my generation, I mean, I went through 2020 in February. That was brutal with my stock market account. But I came out like a bandit, everybody. I came out like a bandit because I got balls of steel. But the whole thing is that I think that behavior is actually going to change once that's called. And I actually think that we're going to have a very interesting 18 months. But I also think that, you said something very interesting where there's companies and people who bleed their consumer and their consumer gets wiped out. I mean, I could tell you very honestly, I got about $600 worth of bills coming up in the next 3 months to keep my show alive, to keep my website alive, keep some other stuff alive that's necessary. And I have about $500 to cover, partially because of you, partially because of Melvin. Obviously, Chris helped with that. And then obviously my Kickstarter helped with that. And I'm $90 short, but I could find that $90. And I'm going to find that $90 in the next probably 30 days. So I'm okay. But I'm not backing anybody's campaign in the next 3 months until I get through my rough position. And so if you're running a campaign every month, I mean, there gets to a point where I'm bled dry. I think that's another thing people don't think about is that I'm going to be out bleeding dry if you're going to freaking just $15 here, $15 here, $15 here. I'm out at a certain point. And I've gone through that with a few companies, and I got no problem saying with Zenoscope, Zenoscope knows how to bleed their customer dry, and it might not be so good in the long run. And I think this is something that people really need to understand about Kickstarters is that if you're running a lot of them, you got to think about it. And so that's something that I think, Mark, you brought up a really good point, is you also have to understand when your customers have money. Every July, I'm out of money, guys. For whatever reason, in March, I'm always out of money. And in July, I'm out of money. And legitimately, in the last 5 years, in September, I have a surplus. For whatever reason, it's worked out that way for the last 5 years. So that's another thing, too. I mean, January, people are fuck out of money. And I learned that the hard way.
Yeah, and there's a I've forgotten. Sorry, it was either Mark or Chris was saying. It was a great point anyway. Great point, guys. Hey, pops. Yeah, there's
he
this.
He was invited on, but he doesn't want to wake up his house.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah,
So
there's this.
You could yell at me later on private message if you would like for that comment. I'll take the L on it.
There's this promotional. I mean, we all feel it when you're running a campaign that you have to just smash social media like nothing else, and you feel like you are throwing yourself in front of people and overdoing it, but you have to because of the algorithm and everything else. So you're shouting and shouting and shouting and shouting. Then if you end your campaign and immediately start another campaign, you're shouting again, asking the same people, the same supportive crew, and like everyone's saying, you're going to run out of potentially goodwill, but definitely money. And you're also losing that bump of, like I think Mark was saying, as soon as they've got the thing in their hand, that's the best time to go, hey, now my next project, which is just as good or even better than the one you've got in your hand. It's the same with novels, launching novels and all that sort of stuff. It's something I'm terrible at, is creating a lot more buzz and almost like creating room for the thing so that when you launch it, it's like, wow, this is amazing. I'm going to throw everything I have behind it, instead of you doing it so regularly that, you miss that opportunity for a big kind of big bang.
Yeah, we don't have the pleasure of doing the monthly books like Marvel, DC, and all that.
Whose notification was the?
Here's the
Oh,
Doctor
that's
Who.
my boy's letting me know he's heading off to work. He had to stay
That's
home.
awesome.
He couldn't come with
That's
us.
awesome.
So I got a story about voices that is unrelated. My friend just bought a Tesla. So I don't know what you guys know about Teslas, but what you can do is from an app, you can make a voice, and then it sounds like Optimus Prime. So somebody's camera,
No, I didn't. Pretty cool.
approaching your car, and you can make the voice. So obviously, me and my friend just starts hot gun, right? And this is what happened. Another Tesla parked next to us. So my friend, we were waiting, and he saw it, and so he said the voice, and we saw the guy's reaction. He just smiled like a grin that just lit up the entire parking lot. I was like, dude, what the hell's wrong with you? It was brilliant. And we also sang karaoke. So
Everything was Optimus.
Too.
I'm like Optimus. You gotta be your word. You cannot just keep defaulting on your people who supported you.
Exactly.
Optimus was all about living up to his word. Still is, presumably.
It was brilliant. The Teslas are so much fun.
I guess you own a Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're in the process anyway of like kind of relooking at the Kickstarter, our Kickstarter strategy, because to Morgan's point, it's an exhausting process. It's even if you could, right, you had the hours in the day to just like scream and shout, finish a campaign, and immediately start screaming and shouting again. It becomes tedious, right? And it's not it's not something that energizes you, because with everything, it's not necessarily just the financial resources that give you energy, right? It's the actual like enjoyment of I can have the shittiest day in the world, and then it's somebody who reaches out and is like, hey, I love that new thing that you're making, or maybe it's an artist that just turned in some new pages, and I'm just like, oh yeah, like now I can do that. But I've never gotten done with DMing, a bunch of backers and then been like, yeah, now I feel like I have the energy to like do more shit,
I don't know.
And
my experience was different. It was so different because I got so much hatred, but I got so much support too. It was weird. It was so weird. And I mean, my whole thought process is that I come from definitely more business side, and I come from more corporate side. I am not Kickstarter minded by definition, because I'm like, let's fucking do it and let's monetize it and let's not play by Kickstarter's rules. I actually am not a fan of Kickstarter. I'm more of a fan of ClickFunnels, to be very honest, because I think the biggest problem with Kickstarter is Kickstarter's biggest failure is they don't collect the email first. So if I'm to create a ClickFunnels, which is a funnel system, I want your email. Your email to me is worth more than any amount of money, because once I have your email, I can email you every day. I can hit you up. You take me off your thing, I can put you on another list, or I could sell you a product that then is bigger, or better yet, I'll give you one that's even better. You come up, you sign up for my project at pre-launch page. I get your email. I can say, boom, day one happened. Everybody who backs it gets a free metal card, something like this bad boy, available on eBay right now. This right here, everybody, available on eBay, $15 right to you. But on day one, now I can send out an email reminding you to back it. And if you go through the email link, and I'll know if you're on my email list, boom. And that's like my biggest problem with Kickstarter is I'm looking at Funnelytics, and I'm like, Kickstarter also doesn't bring people downstream. It brings people to 15 exits. That's like going to a highway and you have 15 exits and you're in lane 1 to choose from. And that's my problem with Kickstarter, is that you come to a Kickstarter page, it's like, boom, you got 10 options, have fun. It doesn't bring you downstream. It gives you freedom, and it doesn't direct you. And I think that's the biggest failure of Kickstarter and Indiegogo. I really do.
It's kind of like, though, being it's like being at a virtual con in in some ways, because whenever you go up and put your stuff up on Kickstarter, you're alongside 50 other creators at that one time, all potentially with things that are similar, and you're all vying for the same customers to give you their money for, whatever the product is. So it's kind of that same thing, but you're all in the same place at the same time. The difference is, I suppose it's not different because, people have to go there as well. So it's not like people find it by accident. They tend to go there because they're looking or they're interested or you're advertising or whatever. But it is and to Chris's point earlier, it's fun. Like it's, as a creator, it's amazing. It's a great opportunity to talk to people. You can do cool, wacky stuff. That my last campaign, I gave away theme songs for a couple of backers. So basically you get your own unique theme song. I'll compose it for you, put it together. That was great fun. It was something I could do pretty easily. So it doesn't cost me a lot, but it's great for them. So you do all this really cool stuff, but it is exhausting and it's so much work, and you've got to be on every day. And there's also, let's not, because we've been saying a fair bit as well about how, the creators that maybe aren't being ethical and all the rest of it. The downside of Kickstarter as well, one of the downsides is you might get 200 odd backers, and 10 of those or 20 of those, just the money doesn't come through, because from the time that you get them come in,
it was my fault.
It's hard because it's not a normal business where you get the money. So you're banking on that money. Then it comes around to the funds. Some of the people aren't there. The other thing is there's this perception of success. So my last Kickstarter campaign was just shy of 10,000, which for me was really good. Things are starting to moving. That's great. But when you look at how much money actually came through versus which people dropped off, how much does it cost to print and ship the books? How much did I, and this is my fault, severely underthink postage because I didn't weigh the books properly. All of those things add up, which at the end of it, I'm still waiting to find out, I know I haven't made money, but how much have I made from that to recoup what I paid on the, artwork and all that sort of stuff. So there's this perception of, you did this amazing thing. It's tough on creators, man. It's not as though, you made 10 grand, that's 10 grand in your pocket. No, that's, and in some cases it can be the more you make doesn't necessarily mean the more you're actually making, depending on how the whole thing is structured.
So I'm going to throw something out there that every creator should really figure out how to do and should actually build out. It's called a P&L statement. A P&L statement is profit and loss. Understanding profit and loss is massively important. And, I have a very, very strict position where I actually think you're moronic. But people, and the rule of thumb, and this is just my opinion, is if you're not making money or breaking even on your first book, you need to go back to the drawing board before you launch, and you need to figure out how to break even or at least make a little bit of profit. Because if you're not doing that, your project is going to fail by definition. And I'm not saying it has to support and pay your mortgage, but you need to cover your printing costs. You need to cover your artwork. You either need to recoup your money, or you need to say, hey, look, I spent 6 G's and that's my investment. And then I recoup that and put that into the next book, and you're funding an investment and you're creating a perpetuity cycle. This is what I do in my eBay business, and everybody needs to copy that model. I've seen it on Kickstarter. Somebody's like, oh man, I guess I'm not launching issue 2 next month like I planned because I don't have the money to pay for my art. And I'm like, well, you didn't plan your project out then. I forget the biblical verse, but the basic, I guess, paraphrasing it is, thou who doesn't plan, everybody laughs and calls him a fool. And that's the same thing with Kickstarter. And it sounds draconian, it sounds mean, but you know what it is? If you actually listen, you'll be okay. And I want people to win. That's the problem.
Well, everything you're saying so far makes sense to me, because I'm going back to what you said earlier about Kickstarter having, the overwhelms you with options. I'm thinking, well, what if Kickstarter, instead of doing what they're doing now, the policy they added, what if they added, I don't know, Kickstarter FX, where you can, to use a corporate term, make your Kickstarter more effective. Instead of having all these exits, you can be more specific. Maybe there's search words that you can use, such as genre of the comic book. Who is it for? things that would enable you to make it more efficient. And you can still do the fun things that Morgan described, but that don't take so much of your energy away, because if you're doing all these fun things, but you're also, like, as Andrew points out, you don't have a P&L ratio, then it's not efficient. It's not efficient. And you always go back to the fact that it is a business.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can see something else happening here. Maybe ClickFunnels, like you said, like something that would enables you to be more efficient. No, there you go. But so far, I'm not very much on Team Andrew and everything that's going on tonight. Like I know it's tough, but it's corporate, yeah.
Everybody needs this book.
Seriously. Is that the what's it called? Russell Bronson book?
This is a Russell Bronson book. It's $10. I do not have any affiliations. This book basically outlines how to get traffic to any funnel. And guess what Kickstarter is? It's a funnel, guys. It's a funnel. And I mean, I'll just read you the context, table of context of this book, just to prove a point here. We're going to go through this. Okay, who's your dream customer? Boom. That's how you fund a Kickstarter. Where are they hiding? The Dream 100. The 100 people you need to be. Whether that's where you're advertising, get on their shows. Shocking. Hook, story, offer, and the attractive character. Well, hook, story, offer. How are we going to sell your Kickstarter, guys? Work your way in. Wonderful. Hey, guys, you're all worked your way in. Congratulations. Buy your way in. Some of you bought your way in with me, too. Congratulations. Traffic that you own, hence an email. Follow-up funnels. You can't really do that on Kickstarter. Infiltrating the Dream 100. You've all done that, too, today. Congratulations. Now fill your funnel. Fill your funnel organically. Working your way in, huh? Fill your funnel with paid ads. Buying your way in. This is fun. Instagram traffic. Facebook traffic, Google traffic, YouTube traffic, after the slaps and snaps. I don't know what that is. Conversation domination. I'm doing that right now very well. The funnel hub, other people's distribution channels. You're doing that right now too. Your affiliate army. Guys, you should be affiliating me. I can tell you that. I need it. Cold traffic, other growth hacks. Wonderful. I believe I just sold this book very well.
I guess
you should have an affiliate link.
A couple of things, like food for thought, I guess, there are mechanisms to, Kickstarter, like anything, right? It's got its pluses and minuses, and any platform that you're going to affiliate with, right? You learn to play to its strengths, and you learn to, minimize its weaknesses, so, for example, with the, an easy way you could do for collecting the emails and things like that is, you could have the digital rewards go through a platform where they have to, put in their email in order to redeem that digital reward, rather than just sending it straight through an email thing or whatever, and you can get data off of that. There's creative ways to solve those problems. But even on the creator end, we've been taking stock, been doing this for a year. I got, 14 plus creators that I work with, and they range, from folks who are full-time freelance artists that are like, this is what I do. I make art, this is how I'm going to pay my bills. And then there's people who they have full-time jobs doing something else. They're really talented. Ray, you had him on the show, Ray Garza. He's got a job. Monday. I don't know who he is. Take McGregor. He made an awesome book. No, it was a joke. It was a joke. And he, so, the business structure for working with each one of those creators and meeting where they are is wildly, wildly different, just in the selling of comics, let alone how they're going to interact on, the digital platforms we distribute through, like Global Comics, or, fundraising, like on a Kickstarter and stuff like that. So, it's, everything's complicated. Everything becomes exponentially complicated once you get into the execution phase.
Let me ask you a question, Mark, because for those who don't know, Mark, you served in the military, if I'm correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you know who Jocko Willink is, right?
No.
So Jocko Willink was a Navy SEAL instructor, and he talks about extreme ownership. And one of the things that Jocko talks about, I'm really big into Jocko right now, and I'm reading his book, is that understanding when you're managing a team. Now, not everybody who's running a Kickstarter manages a team. Obviously, what you're doing, Mark, is you're managing a team. You're the GM. You're not the quarterback. You're the GM, and you're the owner of the team at the same time. Is how I view you. Even though you're writing a comic, you're also managing 14 other people and then some writers. And so one of the things is that what you're doing very well, and I think a lot of people can take a lot of note from it, is you're saying, hey, where did the strengths of my people lie? And I think that's what people have to understand when you're running a Kickstarter is I'm going to promote the shit out of the interview. So when you come on my show, I'm promoting it. So you need to utilize that strength very effectively. You also know that I'm going to give one hell of an interview. I'm going to dive into your book. I'm actually going to read your book. If you send it to me, I'm going to pay attention. So one of the things is that I think that's something that people need to understand is saying, how do I utilize people's strengths? And I don't just, obviously I was reading it somewhat sarcastically and a little bit like an asshole purposely, but that introduction, but even going further into it, it's the idea that you need to understand when you're promoting something, who has what strengths, what audience strengths do they have? And I think you do that very well. I really do.
I appreciate that. One of the things too, and going to what Morgan was talking about with like what, the illusion of success, right? Because people see, oh, you put $14,000 up on that Kickstarter, right? Like there's a vault somewhere with $14,000, and like that's not the case at all. I feel like George Bailey, and it's in his house and it's in her house, like the money's not here, and I go on, I've done 30 some odd podcasts just this year alone. And I feel like and getting positive feedback. And I feel like I'm sitting on a dumpster fire, like every day, so it's, it's never, it's never as simple and clean as it appears. That's what we have the graphic designer for. To make it look not look like hammered dog shit when it goes out the door.
I'm gonna stop talking in a second. Let everybody else talk. Chris hasn't talked in a while. I knew it's Melvin, but I'll just say it. I did $855. That gets me barely covered for next year. I was fortunate enough that I had other sponsors that covered me up to the point that funds season 4. And that's what people don't understand is that, I took $30 out of that for a personal project to produce this metal card. So this metal card is fun and it's cost me $30 to produce about 50 of them. And that was my reward for my hard work that I bought new product. And while that product isn't selling necessarily, it will eventually. But that's the thing that I think people don't understand is that if you're doing X amount of money, a lot of that is going either back into the business or recouping or becomes a next seed round. And just because somebody does $1 million doesn't mean that that's all profit. One of the things in my eBay business is that, and I'll briefly explain what I do, and me and Chris are going to be talking about this next Thursday, possibly. I have an idea where we're going to go with that, but that's a different discussion for next Thursday. But if I buy a book on eBay, because I buy and sell comics, if I buy a book for $20 and I sell it for $60, after eBay takes their 13%, the $20 comes out of it, the shipping comes out of it, and then what's ever left over is my profit. And so while you say, oh, Andrew, you sold a book for $60. Oh, Andrew, you had a $20,000 year on eBay. I didn't make $20,000 because I have to pay my taxes on that. I got to pay eBay 13% on all that. I got to pay shipping on all that. And then I got to pay for the actual product and replace the product. And that's what I think people need to understand about Kickstarter is that, oh, snap, somebody did $60,000. That's great. They're doing well. And it's like, wait a second, they might have lost that position. And I think that's a big misconception about Kickstarter.
And that's what I wanted to go back to what Mr. Morgan and Mr. Mark were talking about was with the Kickstarter.
No misters, Chris. No misters. You've been through this.
I know.
That's what the kids at daycare say. They call Mr. Mark.
It's still like I had a $20,000 campaign for the one board game, which was pretty nice, and it still says that on the campaign, right? Unfortunately, as you were saying, a lot of people they don't see decided to not pay. So that 20 went down to after eBay fees and everything else. That 20 went down to 15. So now I'm paying this whole production run based on, but people see, oh, you made 20-some thousand. No, you don't. You actually.
So, Chris, let me ask one more question on this.
Oh, go ahead.
Now, I know the answer to it, but I don't know if everybody else knows the answer to this. What was Kickstarter's fee based on that? Was it based on the 15 or the 20?
It's based on the 20.
Right. There's a reason why I asked that, because I was speaking, I don't know if you know Roland Mann, but we were talking about this on a whole issue, and it's a very different position that people need to understand. And when people draw out before the campaign ends, that's actually a blessing.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if they take it just below a stretch goal, you're like, okay, this doesn't suck as much. But then when you go over to, again, Indiegogo, which again, I've done both campaigns, or both sites. They're nice because they take the money right there.
Straight away.
As opposed to with Kickstarter, who says, well, the campaign ends, it says it funded this, but now these people decided not to pay. Well, okay, that sucks for you. So, and then I use BackerKit, which I like BackerKit. I have no problem with them. But that's another 5 or 10%, 5% fee, I think they are. But the service they use is well worth what I pay for them. So yeah, it's just, so which do you want to go for? Do you want to go for where there's more people on Kickstarter? Okay. But you risk losing those backers, or there's fewer people on Indiegogo, at least from what I've found. But you're guaranteed the money. So it's which way do you want to go?
And certainly from my perspective, I'm guessing it's the same with most creators, but it being from Australia as well, it is very hard for me to get US and international fans and to get into that market without using something like Kickstarter. So the biggest benefit for me, even if I didn't make a huge amount of money, getting those people knowing what my stuff is and buying it, that's worth the premium, to just have access to those people.
And the big thing, honestly, I was afraid of it, and I'm not going to lie, because it was my first comic. I never really was putting out the PDF, but I sold enough PDFs to overseas because they don't want to pay. It's insane shipping from US to overseas. And unfortunately, we can't. US will not even ship to China, Hong Kong, New Zealand, and a couple other countries right now.
Do you know the story about Argentina?
No.
For 18 months, Argentina, you couldn't ship a package to Argentina during COVID. 18 months. Legitly, they accepted no packages. Very few things got into Argentina. If you got your book into, it was easier to get drugs into Argentina than a comic book.
Yeah. I had board games I was shipping to Australia, and I had to tell those guys, guys, girls, whatever. I had to tell them in Australia, I'm like, look, I'm sorry, I have your stuff sitting here. The post office won't let me send it to you. They're like, no, we completely understand. But it comes back to, as you said, say I'm sorry. Explain what's going on. And 99.9% of the people are going to be understanding. Some of them are going to be dicks, or cunts, whatever way you want to call it.
I don't do international shipping. I don't want to torture myself. I mean, I'll ship to a U.S. military base because that's easy. That's actually U.S. postage. It's crazy. And I actually researched how to do it. It's super interesting. I spent like 5 hours knowing how they do it. Awesome. Like, fantastic. It was the best 5 hours I've ever spent accomplishing nothing in my life. It's actually really interesting how they do it. There's actually U.S. postage military helicopters. It is awesome on a Navy ship. And like the guy was like, dude, this is cool, man. Thanks for my book. I'm like, yeah, enjoy it, bro. Like, send him like 15 other comics too. He's like, oh, dude, this is awesome. Now I have something to do. Like, it was great. It's good. I sent him a $100 book. It's super awesome. Book arrived perfectly too, which is even more amazing in my opinion. But yeah, I don't do international shipping. I have a life, and there's 350 million people in the U.S. I can make enough money in my eBay business and shipping somewhat in the middle of the Pacific Ocean to a Navy ship every once in a while that I'm perfectly content.
No, but like I was saying, the PDFs, the digital copies, I use CBR and CBZ as well for the digital copies of comics. They just allowed me to open up that market, and they didn't have to ship it. And that's the way I was able to get over or get extras through Kickstarters because of something like that.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things that I suppose if you're new to Kickstarter, you might not know, but it's you offset what you potentially lose on the print copies with the digital copies. So the more people buy the digital copy, the better it is, because that's essentially money for nothing. There's no postage, there's no print costs. So the more digital fans you get, the better. So if you can sweeten the deal for the digital guys, that's the way to go, because that makes up for whatever you're going to be losing the other way around. And it is a bit of with what you're saying before, Andrew, about the business side of things. And it's one of those things that if you just look at a campaign on its own, it's probably going to be a pretty miserable story. You have to look at a run of campaigns, other ways that you bring in business, money through the business and all that sort of stuff. If you're running it as a business, you kind of have to look at the big picture and how everything kind of adds to that. And yeah, the Dustin that you mentioned earlier, that dude knows how to run a business, because he churns out stuff like nobody's business. But yeah, you got to look at kind of the whole thing. Yeah.
I think we're.
What are you saying, Chris?
No, I was just saying, I think we're rocking the same kind of hat here.
We are, dude. I'm doing it for one very good reason, so that the light doesn't shine off my bald head. You've got hair, bro. You don't need one of these.
We should all just get the same hat and just do this again.
So spec on it on Twitter, and tag me in it, so I can look for where to buy it, where to order it. I'm not usually a hat guy, but that hat seems to fit all seasons. The fact that it's in Australia and over here, it's a hat for like all cultures. It cuts across cultures. It's like the Sean Connery hat, I guess you can call it. Yeah. It's cool everywhere.
That's right.
Yeah. The flat cap.
Go
get one, people. Go get one.
I mean, I got a haircut today for a reason, because my hair was like a freaking mop, and oh man, I am so happy. Just shy of military. It's so much cooler. I feel so much better. I feel like normal.
I know how you feel, man. I had a haircut today too. It's feeling a lot better.
I'm letting everything go. I had 17 years of somebody telling me, what my hair could be, and what when I need to shave and when I need to fucking piss in a cup. So I'm past that part of my life.
Letting it all hang out.
I'll be very honest. I worked in VSOs when I was down in DC. So I was at Student Veterans of America, and I was at the VFW doing fellowships and internships. And man, I love the way those organizations are run. You show up, nobody gives you shit. You just get it done. Your boss doesn't yell at you when you do your job right. Your boss doesn't yell at you when you do it wrong. He just says fix it, and it's fucking great. And and it's great. And like being around military people, they're like, "Yo, Andrew, I'm going to the bar." I'm like, "It's 4:00, guys." They're like, "Yeah." And so we went to the bar. It was great. I had a fantastic experience because you're around just like a fucking well-run organization. You walk into it and you get your shit done. It's pleasant. And obviously my boss moved on to someplace else. My other boss moved on to Wounded Warrior, and it's fantastic. And I'm in contact with them all the time, even though I'm not in the space anymore. And it's an amazing space to work in because it's so structured, and I function in structure.
There's a quote though. I think it was the Nazis talking about having to fight the Americans in World War II, where they said the problem with fighting Americans is they don't follow their doctrine and they don't follow their plans and they don't. And so that my, because, you know, it was, you point somebody towards a problem, you tell them what the intent is, and, you know, because no plan, you know, we have a saying, no plan survives first contact. You know, once a bullet starts flying, then you're like, fucking plans, you know, like just get through this thing, you know. So you know, having adaptable people, and you know, you know, that goes back to my selection criteria when it comes to the folks we work with for lesser known is, you know, I do a better job with it now as we get people on than, you know, when I was first starting. But the first thing I tell them now is like, shit will go wrong, you know, and it's a matter of how we react to it. And it's a matter of how we treat each other when the shit hits the fan, you know. It's, you know, like that, you know, the taking, you know, extreme ownership and stuff like that. You know, like, I don't even care whose fault it is that the fuck up happened. Like, I'm almost relieved, right, when someone says, oh, that was my bad. And it's like, cool, we've identified where the problem is, you know, like that's 90% of it, right?
Oh,
like,
I mean, I could tell you Sunday when my wallet got hacked, first 2 hours I was bitching about it. Fuck. Actually, more like 6 hours. Then my dog got a problem. And I'm still, like, I'm upset about it because I feel very violated, right? But now I found a solution to prevent the problem from ever happening again. Am I pissed about it? When I find out who stole my money, oh, you're damn right I'm going to deal with the problem in my own way. And nobody, and I mean nobody, will ever steal from me again. With my private key exposed, people are like, bro, I'm not touching you. I am not touching your wallet ever again. And let's just say I'm going to make that person the face of America with a broken gun. But that's not the point. You heard it here first. It's nothing personal. Do not steal from me. You will suffer the consequences. But I found the solution to the problem. It won't happen again. It's called
failure's a good thing. Any bad day for your ego is a good day for your soul. Like, if you say that once, you know, when you just feel like absolute dog shit, you know, that's where character comes from.
The first 6 hours of my money being stolen, I needed to bitch about it. And that's all right too. Sometimes when you have a problem, and look, if you have a bad day on Kickstarter and you need to bitch about it for a day, I'm cool with it because I get it. Sometimes you need to just get it out of your system. And my friends have went through that. When I was getting attacked with my campaign, my friends heard me bitching about it. Like, yo, I get it. But they also knew that I wasn't quitting. And that's the other thing too, is that you have a setback and you got to learn not to quit. You could bitch, but I'm cool with bitching if you're not quitting. If you quit, and I've noticed people quitting, I'm like, why? Let's see how this thing plays out.
Yeah. I don't want to say this. I used to have a partner, somebody I worked with when I first started, and they ended up stealing over $30-some thousand from 2 campaigns. Okay.
Wow.
But it's like you said, that was one of my big panic moments. but you got to follow the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, man, and just don't panic. You know, you got to find a way to get through it. It took me 5 years to build back the rep, but honesty, and because I paid back the cash out of my own pocket every dime, you know, and I never saw anything from the campaigns, but I paid them back, and that was important to people, and that's why I can continue doing what I do. But yeah, bad stuff's going to happen. I can't say what it's going to be, and it's going to affect everybody differently. But you know, it's your ability to cope, to handle it without breaking down completely. That's going to determine whether or not you're a success or not. And I can actually say that I have degrees in psychology, mental health counseling, as well as business. So,
I don't have one of those degrees. I've learned the hard way, and I've learned over the last 10 years. But I've learned through a lot of bumps, a lot of bad decisions, and all I know is that I'm a lot wealthier than I was 10 years ago.
Yeah, and my dad was a Marine.
Less than once. Only doing it once, everybody.
I'm just trying to get to a place where I talk to my therapist about comic books less and less. Like, if I can get You know,
But-
like
well-
I come in and he's just like, what happened today? You know, it's like, you know, got
Unless you're
other
going in
problems
and
I need to
saying,
work through, man.
unless you're going in and saying, "Yo, did you read this issue of?" And then that's a good way to talk.
yeah.
Yeah, Kickstarter going here.
Trying to sell them. Yeah.
Donate. Take a percent back of what I pay you for the sessions.
Yeah. Funny story. Speaking of the doctors with the comics, I had to go in for a surgery recently because my something with the hand, and it turns out the surgeon was a fan of the comics and the games. He said we spent the entire hour of surgery while you were under just talking about your games and stuff. I'm like, what kind of a small
Wow.
world is this?
That's
Too
awesome.
bad that they didn't get any audio on that, so you could post that on the Kickstarter.
That would have been sweet. Yeah.
You could hear the beep beep, the monitor of your heartbeat as you're like sitting there. And beep beep. This is awesome. Buy this comic. Beep 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 beep.
That would have
So
been
I
cool.
have a funny comic story. So well, one of the cool things that I got to do, I think last year, is it was Sonic the Hedgehog's 30th anniversary. So I got to interview Ian Flynn a while back, and I have a wrestling friend named Killian McMurphy. He's a huge Sonic the Hedgehog fan. So I bring in Killian McMurphy and Ian Flynn, and what are we talking about? We're talking about Sonic the Hedgehog on his 30th anniversary. So instead of actually doing something productive with Sega, IDW, Archie Comics, he's here sitting with me over in his house with Killian McMurphy in his house, and we're talking about Sonic the Hedgehog's 30th anniversary. And I'm like, how the fuck did this happen? Like, so it's the craziest thing, and it's such a small world. I mean, it's weird who's into this stuff, who's not into this stuff, having these conversations and all sorts of stuff. And you'd be surprised. Like, a bunch of these people just want to like hang out, and so that's one of the things. But obviously Morgan's got to peace out. So Morgan, get the fuck out of here.
That sucks.
Like, what are you doing here, man? No, seriously,
Thanks,
promote your stuff. Where can people find you? Where can people bother you? Where can people, yell at you if they would like to? Or where,
I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere. You just need to look. Just go morganquaid.com and you'll find everything. And feel free to find me on social media and all that sort of stuff. There's lots of stuff going on. It's all good fun. Been great chatting with you guys. Really kind of cathartic as well, which is nice. So hit me up on social media.
Let's chat soon too, Morgan. Yeah, because I got the opposite problem with you, so maybe we can help each other out on that.
Absolutely.
I'm going to push something out at Morgan, and I've been taking a break, but I've been releasing micro content actually on my Instagram with Morgan. And I've just been so busy the last few weeks on vacation and some other things that are going on in my personal life that I got a few more clips to release. I got to release them on YouTube as well. And so obviously look out for that stuff and look out for our interview that took place, February, I think? Like I'm so far behind in micro content. It's not even funny anymore, but that's something.
Hey, what's that you got there? That's the Blood Below. That looks like
That
an
looks like
awesome
some pretty
comic.
sexy stuff right there.
Blood yellow? Oh, the blood below. The blood below.
Yeah, that's
Flat
awesome
hats
comic.
forever.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. Have a good one. Talk to you later.
Good night, Morgan.
Now that Morgan's out, I mean, let me tell you everyone what I'm doing soon. This right here is called a WWE Blaster Box. It is 11 WWE packs. There are 5 to 7 cards, sometimes 3 if you get a lucky pack, and there's some rare shit in there. Obviously, we have Sasha Banks, Bailey, Bobby Lashley. We got Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. It's not the company. We got Diesel and Scott Hall. And we got Street Profits right there. And so I am going to be unboxing that when I get my Zenoscope cards from the Kickstarter they just ran with Pat Shan and a few other people who have trading cards. So if anybody has trading cards and they're unopened and they want to unpack it with us, that's the plan. And so it's going to be super fun. And that's what I'm doing sometime in June. I don't know when, but whenever I get those cards, me and Pat Shan are going to do it. And it's going to be a blast. But I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully I'm going to pull some cool shit out of that.
Awesome. You said Blaster Box, and I went somewhere dirty super fast on that.
Please share. I love dirty. I am a very stinky, dirty man.
Yeah.
I am filthy to the T. I am a dirty realism Charles Bukowski fan.
Yeah.
There you
So
are, bud. I thought I offended
dirty
you.
you're talking about. I could go deeper. I promise.
That's what
So
she
I
said.
want to hear
Yeah.
it. Everyone's
Yeah,
hear it now.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I got that call coming up here too, so I'm gonna have to bail as well. But thank you so much, Andrew, Chris, and Melvin. I'm really glad I got a chance to meet you. Yeah.
My
Find you, follow you, hit you up, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, lesserknowncomics.com. Instagram is probably where we're the most active, so just at Lesser Known Comics, and then Lesser K Comics. That was the best we could do for Twitter. So all those platforms, and yeah, we probably gonna take a little bit of a beat during the summer just to kind of reassess some things and figure out how to keep. We've been doing this for about a year, so kind of taking a step back and evaluate everything. Yeah, we 15 books that are either like in post-production where it's like just has to be lettered or, just needs to finish the last design stuff. So got a lot of good stuff coming out.
At some point, you and me are going to talk at some point, one-on-one at some point, and we're going to figure something out. Probably more closer to September, probably.
Sounds great.
Yeah,
All
we're
right.
going to do a new Lesser Known Comics. There we go. .com. There we go.
Enjoy your phone call, and thank you for your service, by the way.
Thanks for the support. All right.
Good seeing you.
Take care, guys. Good talking to you, gentlemen. Out.
Were they leaving?
So we have to ask Melvin a question while Chris is still here. Melvin, did we ruin comics for you yet?
Yes and no. Like, I wouldn't say ruined it, but you gave me a very sobering look at the situation because I had no idea that it was like that. I don't exactly participate in groups, but I follow people on Twitter. That's where I'm most active, on Twitter. And it sounds very smooth. Everything sounds very cool the way they promote it. But I'm aware that there's a lot of Kickstarters, and that's probably just the ones that I see, which is like 12 or 15 people. I'm assuming there's hundreds, if not more than that. So it makes me, as you pointed out earlier, it's a very saturated platform, and it makes me think, well, I have to do something else. I especially when the way you mentioned the policy and all that, it's like, okay, there's something else I have to do because it sounds like a very crowded platform. And it also sounds like, Morgan pointed this out too, like doing extras and doing things like that. It's exhausting. It's like so much work that it's almost its own project. And it seems to be almost a thing separate from the comic book itself. So it's like, okay, I have to approach this in a different way then, because to me, they have to be connected. Like the marketing and the thing have to link in somehow so that you minimize all the extra work that needs to go into marketing and promoting.
I appreciate
that. You were very cold, very truthful about it, and I appreciate that. I'm okay with that. I can take it. I actually would have that you guys were very truthful about how things are than just give me like a fairy tale story. And then I start doing that. It's like, holy shit, what is this?
I am going to say, again, I've done 9 or 10 campaigns now. And yeah, you are going to have some issues that you're going to, but please, it's like parenting, man. It's grueling work, but it's great fun. Okay.
Rewarding.
It absolutely.
I mean, let me explain my mind. Sorry to cut you off, Chris, but I got weirdly attacked, right? So I got attacked by people, and I mean, I'm not going to name people, but people also said, I don't get your project. I don't get what you're doing. And I get it completely. I understand it, where you're not excluding people, and maybe it wasn't conveyed, but the way I viewed it is that it's like a con ticket and it's a VIP ticket where you get to cut the line. And what people don't understand about my show in particular, and obviously you support my show, full disclosure, which I truly appreciated because honestly I needed it badly, is that I don't take everybody on my show. I refuse people. I had somebody who I said, hey, this is my rate, and it wasn't that expensive. They're like, oh, I don't have money for that. I'm like, you got a bigger problem in comics. When I'm not going to mention the number on it. But I'm not that expensive, all things considered. I'm asking for a little bit of help. And so one of the things is that people got angry with me. And I'm like, but you don't get it yet. I legitimately had the voice of Lin Minmay from Robotech on. Steve Stackley had an issue where rescheduling it. He's the voice of Neji from Naruto. So I'm putting people next to other people. And that's what people don't understand, is that I've had Ebass on my shows. I've had Dawn Mateague. I've had JP Roth. I've had Ralph Desco on from Zenoscope. And so now, all of a sudden, there's a variety of people who get on my show. Blair Shed was just on, who works for Titan. Claudia Iannicello, Scarlet Goth. And if you know who Scarlet Goth is, you should look her up. The point that I'm getting at is that I tend to attract a variety of people, and I don't accept everybody. And so that's what my Kickstarter was. And if you didn't understand it, you didn't look at the show. You didn't understand that I'm putting you right into certain positions, and you get included in a variety of this stuff. And you don't know who's going to come on my show. Pat Chan's been on my show. Raven Gregory's been on my show. Keith Garvey's been on my show. Senku Manaki. And that's the other thing, is that there's a lot of access points, and then there's a lot of access points to other people, cosplayers, wrestlers. And that's what people don't get. And what you're really buying with me is not necessarily an interview. You're buying access. And that's the whole thing. And that's what people need to understand about when you do interviews is if it's free, what does that person have access to? And what access are they giving you? And that's a big issue. And it's a different way of thinking.
It is, yeah. It's I guess to keep going back to the corporate thing, it's the 80-20 rule, like you do this activity you do this investment, this small investment or this large investment that has, you invest this much, but it has this much in terms of what the probability, what it can lead to, versus as you point out, having a chat with someone, which is nice, but probably it ends there. That's it. It doesn't really go anywhere. Whereas, like time with you has the potential to branch into many directions,
When people throw me money, I don't just leave you high and dry. I mean, we develop a relationship.
Yeah.
There are 4 things that change things. When you're dating somebody, you have sex. When you have sex for the first time with somebody, it changes the relationship, just by nature. When you enter a business with somebody, it changes the relationship with somebody. When somebody pays you, it changes the relationship. And I forget the 4th one, but there is a 4th one. It's skipping my mind. But just based off the 3, when somebody pays me for a service, our relationship changes. Chris obviously has sent me his board games. He has supported my Kickstarter. We have a relationship. It changes the relationship. Obviously, I think it's safe to say that Pop is a friend of mine. Pop's a friend of yours, and your sponsor at PromCon for a while. It changes the relationship, and it could be good, bad, but there's a change in the relationship. So I shot you a message. I don't think you're gonna mind me saying. Do you mind me saying what I said to you in the email?
Me?
Yeah, Melvin.
Oh wait, you sent me an email?
No, I sent you an email a while ago.
Oh, okay.
Do you mind me saying what I said to you for a reason? Okay,
let me go look for it.
No. I didn't send it to you today. I sent it to you a while ago, like a few days.
I mean, but I can't remember what it said. You want me to read it from?
No. Can I say what I said?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Sure. Yeah. No secrets. You can say anything.
No. I said welcome to the family, and what that means is that I said, and that's the different mentality. If you supported my show outside the Kickstarter, went beyond and above, I'm like, hey, welcome to the family, meaning that I'm going to take care of you. And that's where I'm going with this. And that's what I think people have to understand is that if you support me, I don't forget. So that's the point that I'm getting at. And I mean, I've given Chris a bunch of media, and obviously, that's what I think people need to understand. Also, is that you gotta support indie. And I say, hey, welcome to the family. I mean, I'm sure you're going to be back on this show at certain points. So that's my point.
Okay. No, definitely. To use corporate terms, you give value for the time, for the donations for things, and that's good. And I'm thinking of it the same way. Like, I appreciate that you invited me on the show, and I apologize I couldn't give as much as I would have liked to. But Kickstarter is something that I'm very ignorant of. But I'm always thinking when I'm here, what can I give? What can I provide you with in terms of sound bites, in terms of video, in terms of content that you can reuse again? I think very much of as a thank you, and as just giving of myself, giving what I have best to offer.
And
Chris, what are you saying?
no, please. No, I was just gonna say, like when I talk to the people on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, I always call them the citizens, right? Because it started off with the town of Slaughterville. That was the board game, and so I've always called them the citizens to create that familial, that friendly relationship. And the same thing here. It's like it started off with Andrew and I just doing the interview, but I like to think that it's actually become friends. Same thing with
We're not
Pops.
friends.
We're not friends?
Chris, we're lovers.
Oh, full disclosure
Virginia-
on the same live.
Virginia is for lovers. But yeah, the same thing with Pops. That's one of the reasons why I helped him. Is because again, friends, relationship. It's all about building that community. That's really important.
That's my goal essentially. Yeah, like I'm looking at it this way. Like I made this thing, and in the past, that's what failed. Like I would do something, but it never really went anywhere. And if I can briefly go into my situation, pandemic happens. I get this thing done, and I realized that's where I failed before. I never really tried to build a community, and that's the thing. That's the difference that I'm doing now. Like I realize you need that thing. You need that community. You need to quote Seth Godin. Again, keep going back to corporate terms. But he is so right. I got into reading him during lockdown, and like everything he said just completely changed my mind about this.
Yeah.
I mean, my whole story, and the short version is that I ran a show called Pop Anime Comics Lounge for 7 years, and then pandemic hit, and I was so backed up on that. I'm like, fuck, all these people are getting screwed. So let me just help wrestlers and people who can't go to cons. Started in March, said, fuck it. I'm probably going to do this once a week. Turned into once a week, that everybody needed it. Man, first 4 months of that, nobody was doing it. I'm like, this is awesome. I got the skill set. I got the technology, and screw it. I was fortunate enough that somebody threw me a little bit of money. Mariah Moreno, I love her to death. She is the first trans woman champion, apparently, that's recognized. Fantastic woman. And I love her to death, and she looks fucking hot too. I'm not gonna pretend. And she's great. She's taken. It's unfortunate. But terrible of me. Terrible. But if they break up, I'm sliding right in. No question about it. But the idea is that what wound up happening is that just started doing more of this, and I started just asking a lot of people, and it has evolved 3.5 years later, 2.5, 3 years later, boom, and keep on doing it, and it's actually replaced it. But my intention was never to make money with this. It was just to help people who were getting fucked over. And it's led to a weird position, and people were like, yo, you should run a Kickstarter. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. I ran one, but again, it's very important because I'm understanding also who wants to give and who wants to take. And I'm running into a problem where a variety of people feel like they can walk into my show, and I'm like, but you can't. Very few people can walk into my show, and the people who can walk into my show don't, and that's the whole thing. And so it's very interesting in my world, but I digress. That's a different discussion for a different day. Nobody wants to hear that story but the idea is that I didn't come here to make money. I came here because people were getting fucked. I thought it was going to last for 6 months, then we're going to be done with the show, and I was going to go back to my corporate position and my regular show, and obviously society had a different vibe for me.
Still going strong. Take one more drink for that. Hell yeah. Give me a hell yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to keep everybody up. I definitely want to get at least 10 minutes after hours with Chris and you, because we're going to give you the after hour speech, which is different than the on-air speech. We have discussions after hour, which is very important.
That's the omerta, I guess. That's the what happens in the room behind closed doors.
We'll put it a different way. For everybody knows how this works. After hours is invitation only, and it's also uncensored, and we give you different insight. Not different insight, but it's a little bit, let's just say, a little bit more dirty. But I don't want to go too deep into that. I do want to give, obviously, Chris an opportunity to promote himself for everybody out there, as well as you, Melvin. So I don't know who wants to go first on what they got. And Melvin's coming on. I think, when are you coming on my show, man?
Let me see. June 30th at 9 p.m.
I think you're coming on after another person who supported my show as well, so that'll be good. It'll be a fun thing. Somebody's coming on at 7 o'clock that day. But yeah, so obviously Melvin's coming on June 30th. We're gonna have a good time. I haven't written your interview yet, but I will be prepared, I promise. But obviously, what do you got going on, Melvin? And I'll let Chris finish us up.
I'm sorry. What do I have going on? You mean?
Yeah, in the comic realm and everything, just so people can check you out, social media wise.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So, I am most active on Twitter. If you go to my profile, it's Robopulp. And there's a link there. There's a Gumroad link. And I don't really ask for money. Rather, instead, what I ask is, check it out. If you like it, share the link. That's it. I'm really more about collecting emails. I'm, building the community, building the fan base. So I'm really not asking for money. I give it away in exchange for an email. And I'm very active on Twitter. So if anybody wants to connect with me, at Robopulp on Twitter.
So go through it, guys.
Thank you very much for having me over tonight. It's been very educational.
And then what about you, Chris? What do you got going on?
Well, I'm definitely going to check out the 30th one because I want to see what the book's all about. That's got me interested. And but I have, we just finished up Slaughterville 3. Oh, I got to show you. I almost said Mr. Andrew. I did. I swear to God I did. But I got to show you because I just got the box in for the director's cut, and that thing is gigantic. You know the box you got for Slaughterville 2?
Yeah.
4 of them put together. It's huge. Wait till you see it. I'm doing a live stream when I get off of the camping trip. But anyway,
I'm looking up your thing right now, Slaughterville 2.
And then we're doing pre-orders for Slaughterville 3. The Slaughterville graphic novel book 2 is coming in August. I'm going to do Kickstarter for this one. And then we have Gone Hunting, which is Big Sexy Outdoors, and we're doing the board game Gone Hunting in September. So we're just busting ass here.
And then we're talking next Thursday. That'll be very interesting. I'm gonna give everybody a heads up. If you're in Kickstarter land, you're doing that. I mean, we're going through basically the presentation that I built out. That is Comic Book Investing 101 that I do at cons. It is a slide deck. It is going to be 45 minutes. The first 45 minutes is legitimately going to be me talking, and then I'm going to be. You could ask me any questions. We could talk about it. I may or may not answer certain things, purposely or not purposely. But yeah, we're going to do a presentation. I'm going to try 30 to 45 minutes on the presentation, but it is a slide deck. And it's going to be a fascinating discussion. On that point, I'm going to give everybody a heads up after hours on that, because we're going to go for another hour and a half after, probably going into level 2 stuff and level 3 stuff. Chris is going to stick around, and if you want in on that, hit me up, and it is a $10 fee to get into that. Chris, you're coming for free, obviously, because you're supporting it, but I want to make money on this because I'm not teaching my competitors how to make money for free anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want in on that, that's what it costs. Melvin, if you want in on it, I'll just send you the link anyway, because you're here.
Okay, thank you. Wow, thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll just send you the link on say after hours. But I'll send you the link like the night of. And I'll tell you when to come in.
Okay, thank you.
That's the point here.
That's exciting, man. Wow.
We're doing that. But that's going to be a very different conversation.
Okay.
And how I make money and how I make a lot of it. But for everybody who doesn't want in after hours, it's going to basically give you a real conception of what comic book investing looks like. I am Andrew the Investor. It used to be Andrew Mecca Davis. I like the Investor better. I still like Meccas. It's super cool. But as far as I'm concerned, October 5th is a big day. Not going to tell you much about that. You'll see why. It's going to be super exciting, and I'm building something out. And in the next few weeks, I'm recording some cool stuff for that date purposely. And let's just say that we're doing on the, the 16th, I want to say? Yeah, the 16th is relevant to October 5th. So that's what I'm up to. Obviously, I'm Pop Anime Comics. I'm also Conversations in Pop Culture. If you would like to support my show, feel free to go do that at Buy Me a Coffee. Go to any of my interviews, actually check them out, and that's pretty much everything that's going on. Obviously, if you'd like to be a guest on my show, you can hit me up on social media. I may or may not accept you. Depends what your project is. But you can hit me up and we'll see where we're at. I do appreciate donations. That is the fastest way to get on my show. On that point, though, that's everything I got. I'd like to thank everybody who showed up, both present and not present at the moment. Obviously, Morgan, obviously, Mark, Chris, Melvin. Obviously, really appreciate you guys showing up. And on that note, we're out, everybody. Peace.
See you.